Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. So here's a little fun fact about me. I love planning. Give me a day timer, a calendar, a planner of any sort, and I will plan the heck out of your day, your life, your week, whatever, or my own. I love goal setting, planning, and I just love it. It was really easy to plan our wedding when we did that. I just love planning. I love talking about my goals. I love talking about my dreams. And I just love visualizing my life and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, by the way. I love doing that. I love doing visualizations and visualizing my day, the next day and things like that. It's amazing. And there was a time, actually just a few years ago, where I was constantly in a state of talking about when we do this, or when we do this, or, if we ever do this. Yeah, it was actually, I usually did a lot of ifs. If we did this, or if we did that. And I was always finding myself in if mode, or, planning for a future, but not really doing too much about it. Here's something I learned in the past year, or actually almost 2 years now. Actually, it would have been over 2 years now. You can talk and talk and talk about what you want, but you also have to do. And the thing is, if you've been talking about something and planning something, you eventually can actually talk yourself right out of doing it altogether. So, rewind over a couple of years ago. And I was in the if we do this or when we do this, and talking about moving somewhere that had less winters and being near water and just different things like that. And I was talking and talking and talking. And all it took was one action, and it got that ball rolling. Now, we had to keep doing little steps here and there. And if we didn't do those steps, I probably would have talked myself right out of it. Talking is good, and planning is good. Sharing is good. In fact, I don't know if we would have moved across the country when we did if I didn't share my dreams and goals with a group of an amazing, empowered women at an event about, I think it was 2 years ago. And I was just sharing about how it would be really cool to move to BC. And how we would like to do that. And it was just a dream. It was just something, a far, out there thing. And little did I know that even less than a year later, we moved there. It's incredible. So talking is very powerful. And if I would have just talked to those women and they shared and they're like, yeah, do it. And all these amazing things that came up in that conversation. And I just let it go. I didn't do that next step of, contacting our realtor to see what the steps are to get our house on the market there in Ontario. We wouldn't have moved forward, and I probably would have just kept talking. So again, talking is beautiful and amazing, and it's great to plan. What I'm learning, though, is plan your week, your month, your year. And as an entrepreneur, it's really important to plan out things. However, life has a way of making its own plans, and you can't plan everything, but a plan with having the flexibility to change your plans. And this episode here is about reminding you, lovingly, that you can talk, you can plan, and you can have these goals and dreams. But it's also important to take little steps or big steps wherever you feel comfortable. So sometimes it's less talking and more doing. I grew up with parents that had really big dreams when I was a child as well. And they always talked about moving as well. Moving up north and owning a campground or cottages or something like that. And I constantly, they were talking about it all the time. And to this day, they still didn't do it. You can get lost in your dreams, lost in your hopes and your ideas. And as you're doing that, you can continuously talk yourself out of it too. So you're talking about it. You're like, oh, this would be lovely, this and that. And then you continue talking and you talk your right self out, having a conversation with you're starting your goal. You keep talking, and you talk to yourself right out of your goal or your dream or your hopes, right out. Because anything you want to do in life, you're going to find reasons not to do it. Fear is going to pop up and it's going to say, well, you're crazy. Why would you do something like this? That's insane. Or even better yet, you're going to have people show up in your life that could just be like, what? You're crazy. What are you thinking? That's not possible. Fun fact, anything is possible when you stop telling yourself it isn't. And I learned that. One of my biggest things that I did when we were in the process of doing this big life change, because I'm not going to lie, I had huge fears, huge fears. I love my family and I love being close to them. And even to this day, I do miss being able to just see them, 25-minute drive, my sister 5 minutes away. We were really close. And I always went to suppers. Before kids, it was like I went to my parents' house every Sunday for supper and things like that. Kids changed it a little bit where we have our own things going on too. But I was close with my family. And, the distance makes it a little challenging to, see people in person all the time or at all. So it can be challenging. So I had a lot of fears come up. The good news is my desires were stronger than my fears. And I also had some pretty cool tools in my toolbox, affirmations, mantras, and just really amazing things. I meditated, I journaled like crazy through the process. The other thing I did was we didn't really tell anybody what we were doing. Because one of the things is when you have fears, other people around you will also mirror your fears. So even if you're masking them, pushing them under the surface and pretending they're not there, other people in your life will show up and mirror them. So I didn't want to see my own fears because I wanted to move through them. I already was feeling enough of my own fears. I didn't need to be reminded about them constantly. So it was about following through. So my husband and I, we really just worked together and moved through it. I would share to him when I was having a fear. I was like, I know it's just a fear. We're still doing this, but I just need to share with you. This is how I'm feeling right now. But we didn't really let anybody know until we did make that step that we needed to focus inward and do what we felt we needed to do, which was move across the country and live in a beautiful, small beach community. And to this day, I have zero regrets. Yes, again, it is hard living away from family and friends, but it feels like I've lived here forever. It feels like home. So sometimes talking is great, but then you can also stumble upon people that are going to talk you right out of it. You'll either talk yourself out of it or find other people to talk yourself out of it. And again, I'm not saying like have this dream and then just go head in right away. You can plan, do some research. I probably researched for a year before we really made it happen. But when my husband and I made that decision, it didn't take long. It took less than a year to I forget exactly the date. I have to look back. But I know I was talking to the women in December. And I think we talked to our realtor in January. We sold our house by May. And we were moved to BC in September. So less than a year. And even in that December, I wasn't even certain. And in all honesty, it would have been June, the end of June we were reaching for. But then, life happened. Schools closed down. And we kind of, were knocked down for 2 months, I think. 2 months, it slowed us down for 2 months. And looking back now, if I would have let that stop me, be like, oh, that's a sign we shouldn't move or whatever. It definitely never crossed my mind that it was a sign we would never move. We were so invested in our dreams and goals by that point that we're doing this. So we had to hit the pause button for a little bit. But looking back now, If we would have waited, there wouldn't have been a house where we're living. Everything is just crazy now. And it just felt right at the moment. So anyways, you can easily talk yourself out. Like, look how many times I could have talked ourselves out. I'm sure, like, I've talked about our move a lot because it's been the biggest, most amazing thing I've ever done in my life, besides, I guess, having children. And even that wasn't a big decision for me. This was. I had to move some major fears and thoughts and beliefs from this one. So I've learned a crazy amount. And it's been quite wow moments in this one for me. So I've been using a lot of this moving experience as, examples of things. But I'm so grateful that I never ended up talking myself out of moving. There are definitely examples in my life that I have talked myself out of. One comes to mind right now, just popped in my head, and it's very tiny, but it's just an example of how young we can do this. I believe I was 13, and I was taking dance lessons from one of my mom's work friend's daughters. And it was really cool. I was having a great time. I was having a blast. I love dancing. I love music, and I love it all. And I went with a friend. And I think we only went probably a few times. And my friend dropped it. She didn't want to do it anymore. So I didn't do it anymore. And I, to this day, kick myself. Like, I know I can't change anything, but I'm like, why did I do that? Like, why did I stop doing something just because somebody else didn't do it anymore? We can have those moments in our lives where it's like, oh, so-and-so's not doing it, or whatever it may be, or we just stop listening from within. And, I want to live a life with no regrets. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. And that's been my real thing. It's like, well, even if we move and it doesn't work out, what's the worst thing that happens? We move back. I have never once thought about moving back. I love it here so much. Like I said, it feels like I've been home. It feels like I've lived here forever. But that was where I was when we moved. I'm like, worst case scenario. Worst case. What is the worst case scenario here? What's the worst that could happen? That was our worst case scenario. It's like, okay, fine, then we'll move back to Ontario. Or I say that now with anyways. So that was our worst case. Like, sometimes when fear is getting in the way, it's like, well, what is the worst case? And I've talked about fear, so I don't want to touch too much on that itself. But fear, is false evidence appearing real. Fear is there to trick us into changing our minds. So it comes into talking ourselves out of things. So again, it's really awesome, especially if you're a planner like me, to plan, have a goal, have a focal point of where you want to go. Talk about it, share about it, are supportive. And then make a list of things that you can do. So that's actually one of the things I did at the very beginning. I made a list, and it wasn't very long. I think it was 2 or 3 things, maybe tops. 3 things, I think, when we were moving, was contact our realtor. What was the second? Maybe start decluttering our house, because that's something you can always do. And reaching out to the area that we wanted to move to and just kind of see what the housing market looked like there. Well, I'm going to be honest with you here. I did step 1. We reached out to our realtor. Everything else kind of just kept going. Like, the decluttering kind of happened-ish, but after we got our realtor and talked to our realtor and things like that. And then knowing our realtor actually helped us get in contact with the area. Anyways, it really snowballed really quickly when you say yes to your dreams. And you take those little steps, stop talking or do less talking and more doing. And the doing doesn't have to feel hard. I'm not going to lie, our moving process was insane. So if you want to hear about that, I don't know what episode I talked about it, but there's a lot of stress going on in our moving process. But the process to get us there it almost felt effortless. I don't want to say that because there's a lot of work under the surface. But once I chose to make a change, just doing one step kept moving in the right direction. So it doesn't need to be big. Your to-do list towards, whatever dream it is, whatever goal, doesn't have to be long. It could be one thing. So I encourage you to talk less and do more. If that is where you're at, like if you have this dream that you've been, hanging on to, maybe this was, fate, coming beside you and just having you listen to this podcast at the right time. I'm not saying, drop everything and do it right away, but see what happens. What's one little step you can do towards your dreams? Because again, remember, anything is possible when you stop telling yourself it isn't. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now.